A woman called me at the newspaper office and said, "I died in 1997. But you must write my story, it's still continuing." Then she hung up. The address she left wasn't on any map. I'm Logan Reed, a journalist. I write for a small publication in Chicago. Mostly urban investigations, missing persons, cold cases. These stories have always hooked me, where the police gave up, but the streets still remembered. This call came on October 12, at 2:11 in the morning. I was alone in the office, preparing material for a mundane case about a missing teenager. The woman on the other end spoke quietly, as if someone was near her. Just a phrase, "My name was Abigail Miller. I died, but that's not true. Come to 14, Ferris Road. And don't bring anything that records." Rain pattered against the windows of our shabby office as I set down the phone, my hand trembling slightly. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows across the scattered papers on my desk. Missing persons reports. Unsolved homicides. The usual fodder for our small but dedicated readership. But this call felt different. Personal, somehow. I pulled up our digital archive, fingers flying across the keyboard. Abigail Miller. The name rang a distant bell. I found her file within minutes, a college student who vanished in spring 1997. Last seen at a bus stop near her campus. Her body was discovered 5 days later in a wooded area, with signs of violent death. The killer was never found. Case closed. Her mother died in 2009. No one had mentioned her in the last 15 years. The photo on my screen showed a young woman with intelligent eyes and a cautious smile. Something about her expression seemed to look past the camera, as if she knew something the photographer didn't. I printed it out, folded it into my pocket. My colleague, Diane, walked in with 2 cups of coffee. "Working late again, Logan?" "Or early, I should say." She set 1 cup on my desk. "Got a strange call," I said, not looking up from the screen. "Woman claiming to be Abigail Miller." Diane frowned. "The college student from the 90s? The one who was murdered?" I nodded. "Says she died, but that's not true. Wants me to meet her." "Sounds like bait for a tabloid story," Diane said, sipping her coffee. "Or a trap. Maybe. But there's something about this." I couldn't explain the feeling, the tug of curiosity that had seized me. The same feeling that had led me to break 3 major stories in the past 2 years. "Just tell me where you're going, at least," Diane said. "And check in every hour." The address, 14, Ferris Road, didn't exist in any current database. A void on GPS. But satellite imagery showed an old road that used to be part of a residential sector. Now just wasteland. I found it on a paper map from the 90s. Ferris Road was real but officially erased in 2002 after the neighborhood was demolished. Something about unstable ground, sinkholes appearing after heavy construction nearby. I had to go. Couldn't not go. The drive took me to the outskirts of the city. The rain had stopped, but fog hung low, obscuring the crumbling edges of abandoned developments. My car's headlights cut through the pre-dawn darkness as I followed roads that grew progressively narrower, less maintained. The asphalt eventually gave way to a gravel path, then just an overgrown trail. My phone lost signal, the GPS screen turning black. I was navigating by memory now, by the faded paper map I'd found in our archives. The path curved through a copse of trees, their branches reaching like gnarled fingers across my windshield. And then I saw it, a half-collapsed 2-story house, standing alone in a clearing. The number plate was barely readable, 14. I parked, my headlights illuminating the house's facade. Paint peeled like dead skin. Windows stared back, some broken, others intact but reflecting nothing. I grabbed my flashlight, checked that my phone was recording audio in my pocket, despite the woman's warning, and approached the front door. It swung open at my touch, the hinges whispering rather than creaking. I expected abandonment, desolation. Instead, I found life. The scent of damp wood and moss hung in the air, but it wasn't the smell of decay. It was the smell of a place that was inhabited. Recently. My flashlight beam revealed floorboards that weren't rotting, walls that stood firm. In the living room, a table held a lamp, connected to an outlet. Impossible. Electricity had been cut off from this area for years. Yet the lamp was on, casting a warm glow over neatly arranged photographs on the table. I recognized one immediately. It was from Abigail's case file, her college ID photo. But here, she stood in front of a house I'd never seen before. And in the left corner, me. Standing. Looking directly at the camera. But that was impossible. When Abigail disappeared, I was 6 years old. My throat constricted. I checked the recording on my phone, only to find it had stopped. The screen showed no signal, no battery issues, just a blank display. The timestamp on the photo, yesterday's date. I opened the desk drawer. Inside lay a cassette player with a note, "You're not recording, right? Then listen." My hands shook as I pressed play. The voice was alive. Female. Young. My name was Abigail. I'm 23, and I died, but only for those who don't know how to listen. They rewrote me. First my behavior, then my movements, then my voice. The body is just a frame. And then, in 2010, I came back to myself. Because he moved into someone else. The recording cut off abruptly. I checked the player, no cassette inside. Just empty tape. A chill ran down my spine as I looked around the room again. The photographs on the wall seemed to have shifted, some faces now blurred where they'd been clear moments before. Upstairs, I found more. Newspaper clippings covered the walls. All about people who had disappeared and returned. They looked the same. But relatives said they weren't them. One clipping was from my newspaper. I didn't remember writing it. Byline, Logan Reed. The article detailed the return of a man named Samuel Weston, missing for 3 years. His wife claimed the man who came back wasn't her husband, despite DNA tests confirming his identity. I had apparently interviewed her extensively. The quotes were in my style, the analysis typical of my approach. But I had no memory of this case, this article, this man. In the corner of the room stood a mirror, antique, its frame elaborately carved with symbols I didn't recognize. A fingerprint marked the glass, as if someone had touched it from the inside. I approached slowly, my reflection coming into focus. Everything looked normal until I blinked. My reflection didn't. It stared, unblinking, eyes fixed on mine with an intensity that wasn't mine. I stepped back. It didn't. I raised my hand. It remained still. And then it smiled, a smile I'd never made. I ran. Down the stairs, out the door, into the gray morning light. The fog had thickened, wrapping around my car like a shroud. I fumbled with my keys, desperate to leave, to forget everything I'd seen. Under the windshield wiper lay a note, the paper dry despite the damp air. "You wrote this. You'll come again. And again. Until you stay." The drive back was a blur. The road seemed to loop, bringing me back to the same intersections repeatedly. When I finally reached the city limits, the sun was high, burning away the morning fog. My phone buzzed back to life, notifications flooding in. Missed calls from Diane. Text messages asking where I was. Back at the office, I found her waiting, concern etched on her face. "Logan, where the hell have you been? It's been 12 hours. 12 hours? I checked my watch. She was right. What had felt like 2 or 3 hours had eaten half a day. I told her everything, the words tumbling out in a chaotic stream. The house. The photographs. The mirror. My unblinking reflection. As I spoke, her expression shifted from concern to confusion to fear. When I finished, she said nothing for a long moment. Then she walked to the archive room and returned with a yellowed newspaper. Our publication, dated June 1997. I found this while looking for you, she said, her voice unnaturally calm. I thought maybe you'd gone down a research rabbit hole. She placed it on the desk between us. There, in the obituary section, was my name. My photo. Logan Reed, 23, died in a car accident returning from an interview related to the Miller case. The photo showed me, exactly as I looked now, not as a 6-year-old. Same haircut. Same scar above my right eyebrow from a cycling accident in college. Same eyes. This isn't possible, I whispered. I was a child in 1997. That's what I thought, Diane said. But then I checked your employment records. You started working here in May 1997. Your emergency contact was listed as Abigail Miller. I shook my head. I started in 2018. You hired me. I did, she nodded. In 2018. But also in 1997. And in 2005. And in 2012. She slid another paper across the desk. A staff photo from 2005. There I was, looking exactly the same, standing next to a younger Diane. Another from 2012. Same me. Same age. Same everything. You always investigate the same cases, she continued. You always end up at Ferris Road. You always come back shaken. And then, a few weeks later, you're gone. A car accident, usually. Or a disappearance. And then, years later, you're back. New hire. No memories. Same person. My head spun. This was insanity. Delusion. Why didn't you tell me? Why hire me again if you knew? Because each time, you solve one case before you reset. A case nobody else could solve. You help people, Logan. Even if it's just one family, one victim, before you go back to the beginning. What case did I solve last time? She hesitated. The Vincent disappearances. 3 children. You found them. I remembered reading about that case. It was solved in 2015. 3 years before I, according to my memories, started working here. And what about this time? I asked, my voice barely audible. What case am I meant to solve? Diane's eyes met mine. I think you know. Abigail Miller. The woman who died but didn't. The woman who called me from a house that shouldn't exist, on a road that had been erased. I need to go back, I said. You always say that, Diane replied sadly. And you never come back. But I had to. Something was waiting for me there. Something that knew me better than I knew myself. Something that had been waiting for decades. As I gathered my things, I caught a glimpse of myself in the office window. Just for a moment, my reflection seemed to smile at me, that same unfamiliar smile. Beckoning. The road to Ferris Road seemed shorter this time, more direct. The house stood taller, less decayed. As if it were rebuilding itself. Waiting for me. On the porch was a woman. Young, with intelligent eyes and a cautious smile. Abigail Miller, exactly as she appeared in her college ID photo. You came back, she said, her voice the same as on the cassette. You always do. Who are you? I asked, keeping my distance. What is this place? You know who I am, she said. The better question is, who are you, Logan Reed? Which version? Which loop? She led me inside, to the table with the photographs. Now there were dozens, all of me. Different years, different clothes, same face. Always the same age. Time isn't linear here, she explained. It's more like a palimpsest. Layers upon layers of the same story, with small variations. You die. You return. You investigate. You find me. You leave. You die. It repeats. Why me? I asked. Why us? Because we were the first, she said. The first to be replaced. She pointed to the mirror upstairs. There's something on the other side. Something that needs hosts. Bodies. Lives. It takes us, wears us, discards us. But not completely. It leaves echoes. Iterations. Versions that continue playing out the same stories. And the real us? Still here. Trapped between versions. Trying to break the cycle. She touched my hand. Her fingers were cold. You're not the Logan who started this investigation in 1997. You're not the Logan who died in that car crash. You're a copy. An echo. Just like I'm not really Abigail Miller. I'm what's left of her after she was worn. The room seemed to shift around us, the walls breathing, the photographs changing. Then who is real? I asked. Who is the original? She smiled sadly. That's what you always ask. And that's what you need to find out. That's the case you need to solve. She led me to the mirror. My reflection waited, patient, still, with that knowing smile. It's watching, she whispered. It's always watching. Looking for new hosts. New lives to wear. How do I stop it? You can't, she said. Not alone. But maybe we can, all the versions of us, working together across the loops. She handed me a key. Old, brass, heavy in my palm. In every iteration, I give you this. In some versions, you find what it opens before you reset. In others, you don't. And this version? I asked. Do I find it this time? She stepped back, her form seeming to flicker. That depends on which Logan you choose to be. The one who runs? Or the one who stays? I looked at the key, then at the mirror, where my reflection now held an identical key up to the glass. You said some versions of me solve one case before I reset. What was it last time? The Vincent children, she said. You found them in a place similar to this. A house between versions. They had been taken by the thing in the mirror. You got them out, sent them home. But you couldn't leave with them. I remembered the news stories. 3 children, missing for months, suddenly appearing on their front porch with no memory of where they'd been. No leads, no suspects. Just their return, a miracle without explanation. And if I solve your case? I asked. What happens then? I don't know, she admitted. No version of us has gotten that far yet. But maybe this time. She vanished, there one moment, gone the next. The house groaned around me, the walls bulging inward as if under pressure from outside. I climbed the stairs, the key clutched tightly in my hand. The mirror waited, my reflection smiling that strange smile. I approached, and for the first time, I noticed a small keyhole in the mirror's frame. My reflection raised its key to its side of the glass. What if I wasn't investigating a murder or a disappearance? What if I was investigating myself? A Logan Reed who died in 1997 but somehow still existed across decades. A Logan who kept returning to the same mystery, the same house, the same girl. I raised the key to the frame. Or what if this was all delusion? A psychotic break? What if Diane was humoring a mentally ill colleague? What if Abigail Miller was just a case that had gotten under my skin, a mystery I couldn't let go? The house creaked again, the pressure building. Outside, I heard car tires on gravel. Another visitor? Another version. I had to choose. Run or stay. Investigate or escape. Be Logan Reed the journalist, or Logan Reed the echo, the iteration, the copy of a man who died decades ago. I inserted the key into the lock and turned. What if someone isn't living a life, but a version of a story that keeps returning them to the place where they were erased, but didn't disappear?